The Rising Star Cave System is part of the Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site located in South Africa. This site contains several Homo naledi skeletons and was the focus of the Netflix documentary Cave of Bones, where Lee Berger and his team explained the hypothesis that Homo naledi intentionally buried their dead in the Dinaledi chamber of the Rising Star Cave System. Their experimental hypothesis negates the null hypothesis, that this is a natural burial where Homo naledi simply perished from natural causes and was not disturbed with funerary intent. Though the idea of intentional burial is exciting, it is not well supported by the evidence found at the site, and it is likely that Homo naledi did not intentionally bury their dead. Lee Berger and his team go through great lengths to differentiate what happened in the Dinaledi chamber, intentional burial, according to them, from what could also have happened, natural burial. That is to say, intentional human action versus regular taphonomic activity. One of the main thrusts of taphonomic evidence given for Homo naledi being an intentional burial site is the articulation of the bones found in the site. But this is not very strong. Articulation, that is the position of the bones, by itself is not the strongest argument for intentional burial. This is because bones can end up articulated in precisely the same manner with or without human interference, and certainly without human intentional burial and funerary practices. A much stronger piece of evidence for intentional burial would be the presence of grave goods, which the Rising Star team supposedly also found. The grave good in question is the so-called tool-shaped rock, which was found near a hominid's hand in the Dinaledi chamber. That this is a tool-shaped rock is important to prove and comes up a lot in the video because it would constitute human action, the placement of grave goods, and not regular taphonomic activity. In a YouTube video from YouTube channel Archaeology with Flint Dibble, featuring Jamie Hodgkins and George Leader, two prominent anthropologists involved with the Rising Star Cave System, the latter states, what is missing from the rock is the classic signs of a flake that was removed from the core, flake scarring, and of percussion. While Lee Berger does show evidence of flake scarring in Berger et al. 2025, the revised paper, he doesn't show a wolf percussion, which would strengthen the stone tool hypothesis. George Leader continues in the same video. If it was a piece of dolomitic limestone from the cave itself, it wouldn't have been great to use the same material from the cave itself. Leader brings up a good point. The stone tool would be much more likely to be a stone tool if it was made of material exogenous to the cave itself, if only to preclude the possibility of it being fortuitously placed, as Flint Dibble also states in the video. In Hodgkins et al. 2022, the human burial hypothesis was corroborated by at least 66 perforated columbular risticorna mental shell beads and 3 perforated pendants made on polished fragments of glycymerus in figure 5 of that study. In the analysis of that site, this glycymerus was, as a material, not only clearly material culture in the first place being a pendant, but exogenous to the site itself, which strengthened greatly the idea that people went and placed this person into where they were, constituting intentionally and performed mortuary practices. Compare this to the tool-shaped rock, which may or may not even be a tool, much less intentionally placed as a burial ritual. In the Netflix documentary Cave of Bones, a great share of the runtime is dedicated to animations and descriptions of Homo naledi traversing the treacherous terrain of the Rising Star Cave System. This is supposed to strengthen the hypothesis of intentional burial. Why else go through the trouble, if not for a ritual? In the video from earlier, George Leaders also states, some of these cave systems take years and years to understand the different geomorphic processes. So basically, you can have old openings to these caves that aren't here now. What he's saying is that since cave systems are dynamic, what the documentary extensively describes isn't necessarily what happened, and it's not out of the question that the Rising Star Cave System looked vastly different in the time of Homo naledi from how it does today. In Robbins et al. 2022, the idea of a separate opening in the Dragon's Back chamber is discussed. Before the Dragon's Back block fell, access into the Dinaledi chamber may have been more direct, i.e. by walking below the Dragon's Back block and entering the fracture system behind it. The important question, therefore, is when the Dragon's Back block fell relative to the age of the H. Naledi fossils in the Dinaledi chamber. While the paper doesn't certainly conclude that there was an alternative route at the time of H. Naledi, it introduces the possibility that the Rising Star Cave System changes dramatically over time. This particular possibility is crucial because this alternate route into the Dinaledi chamber also changes the size and scale of the Rising Star system. In Berger et al. 2025, the possibility of deposition of bones by fluvial action is discussed. Additionally, water transport of either bodies, large parts of bodies, or bones is refuted by physical constraints of the system. It is supposed there that the physical constraints of the system were the same as they are today as they were during the time that H. Naledi walked the Earth. If that is not the case, as Robin et al. 2022 proposes, then the possibility of fluvial action is likely. In conclusion, while the Dinaledi chamber is a significant hominid burial site, The evidence that ancient Naledi intentionally traversed the rising star cave system with corpses to intentionally bury them as a ritual activity is more than likely untrue.